we're given that f of x is equal to x squared minus 9x, x squared minus 9x, and g of x is equal to minus 6x. We want to find all the following here. So we want to do add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We want to find the function, and we want to plug a number in for that. Okay, so first thing we want to do here is we want to use the appropriate definition for this. So if I have f plus g of x, we need to know that this is equal to f of x plus g of x. Okay, so we have that notation here. Let's plug in the two functions for each one. So that's what we want to do next. F of x, I'm going to replace with x squared minus 9x. I have a plus, and I'm adding the g of x function here, which is negative 6x. If I combine this together, we get x squared, and we have a minus 9x and plus a minus 6x. That's going to be minus 15x. And so this is basically how we're going to write our answer. We're going to say that f plus g of x is equal to x squared minus 15x. So that is the first thing that they asked us to find. So we found it. This would be the first answer. Okay. Next thing is we want to do f plus g of negative 2. Now, we could put negative 2 into here and negative 2 into there separately and combine them together, but it's going to be easier if we just use the function that we already came up with here. We already found f plus g of x. So if I want to find f plus g of negative 2, all I would have to do is plug negative 2 into the answer that we just found here. Okay, so just plug this in. Okay, and then we're just going to do the evaluation on that. We do want to follow our order of operations when we do this. I do want to do my exponent here. That's going to be a positive 4. I'm also going to add this together here. So 30. And so f plus g of negative 2 is going to be equal to 34. And now we have both of our answers. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll box in the two answers that it asks us to find. That was the first one they want us to find. And then here is the second one. So those would be your two answers for part A. Okay, so this time part B, we want to do f minus g of x, and we want to do f minus g of 1. Again, as always here, you want to begin with the appropriate definition. This is telling us to do f of x minus g of x. We're going to plug in the two different functions that we have for each one. And so we can just go back up here to see what they were. Okay, so we have x squared minus 9x and minus 6x. Okay, so x squared minus 9x. Now, we got to be careful here. We're subtracting a negative 6x. We have a minus as part of our operation we're doing here, but then we have a negative that's part of our function. So we have minus minus that's happening on this. So we want to turn the negative negative into a positive. Okay, so two negatives will turn into a positive, and now we have like terms that we can add together here. We have negative 9x plus 6x minus 3x. We get there. So here is our first answer. We'll say that f minus g of x is equal to x squared minus 3x. So I'll go ahead and put that in the box. That's going to be our first answer they're asking for. That's going to be this one right here, f minus g of x. Next thing is we want to put a 1 in there. Okay, so f minus g of 1 means I want to put a 1 into the answer that we already got here. I'm going to put a 1 in for both of the x's. And now we're just going to simplify it. So this is 1 minus 3. Do the exponent and we do the multiplication. Here would be the final answer they're looking for. It's going to be negative 2. So I can box in this answer. So now here are the two answers we're looking for, f minus g of x and f minus g of 1. Those would be our two answers for part B. Okay, for C, we have f minus g of x and then f times g of x and f times g of 3. This one, we want to do the definition f of x, and we're multiplying it by g of x. Okay, so f of x times g of x. We want to plug in our two functions. So we go up to the top here, x squared minus 9x and minus 6x. X squared minus 9x. And then we're multiplying this by negative 6x. Now, multiplication you can do in any order. So if you feel more comfortable having the negative 6 in front, because we are going to have to multiply these through, because in the instructions, it should say something about expanding your answer. So if it says expand your answer, we do want to multiply all this out here. So I'm going to put the negative 6x, I'm going to put it here. Okay, and now we want to do a distributive property. So I'm going to multiply this and multiply this. So negative 6x times x squared and negative 6x times minus 9x. So we need to do this one first. We're going to do negative 6x cubed. Be careful, you got to add the exponents here. Negative 6 and negative 9, that's going to be positive 54. But we have to add the exponents here as well. And you're going to get x squared. Negative 6x cubed plus 54x squared. Okay, that's our first answer. So f times g of x is going to be this, negative 6x cubed plus 54x squared. So there we go. We're going to go ahead and put this in the box. That is the first answer. Next, I want us to do f times g of 3. So f times g of 3 means that we're going to put a 3 into all the x's. Okay, so we put in a 3 for both the x's here, and now we just want to work that out to get the answer. So for this, we want to do the exponents first. So I'm going to do negative 6 here. That's a cube here, not a square. It's cube. Like I mentioned, we've got to be careful with our exponents on that. It is a cube. So this is going to be negative 6 times 27 plus 54, and then 3 squared is 9. So I want to do those first, and then I can do the individual multiplications on this to be able to get our answer. So now you don't have to do this step by step like I'm showing here. I always try and show you all the different steps, but you could just put this into a calculator all at once instead of doing this intermediate step. But I'll go ahead and I'll show you that just to make sure you're getting the right answer step by step with that. Okay, so I did the first two numbers multiplying, and so now I get 486 here for 54 times 9. And now we just want to combine those together. So essentially I'm taking 486 and I'm subtracting 162. And then doing so, we get the answer of 324. Okay, so f times g of 3 is equal to 324. And that is going to be the other solution we have for part C. Now we'll do one last part here. We're going to do this right here, f divided by g of x, and then f divided by g of 15. Remember, this is f of x divided by g of x. This is the formula for that. So we'll do this part first. And we have x squared minus 9x, and we're dividing this by negative 6x. Okay, these are the formulas that these are the two functions we're putting in here first. Now, if we take a look at this, there is a little reducing we can do on that. First thing you want to do is factor out an x. That is a common factor we have on top. So if we factor that out, we're going to get x minus 9. And then we're dividing that by negative 6x. So the x's here are going to cancel. So we get x minus 9 on top over negative 6. Now, we could divide both of these by negative 6 if we wanted to, but it's not necessary. The negative you could also put out front in front of the fraction. So there's a couple of different ways that you could express your answer here. I'm going to leave it like that. So f over g of x is equal to x minus 9 over negative 6. So here is the first answer they're looking for there. That's f divided by g of x. Now we want to put 15 in here for the x, and we'll get our second answer. So if I want to do f over g of 15, I'm just going to put 15 into our expression there. So 15 minus 9 over negative 6. And if we work that out, we get a 6 on top and a minus 6 on the bottom. And that divides to be negative 1. So I would write my answer out as f over g of 15 is going to equal negative 1. And this would be the secondary answer that we put in for that one.